Direct Set 808 Productions
presents The Beat Factory. Welcome to The Beat Factory. Take a seat, have a sat. We're going to talk about some music today. Today we're going to talk about Tyler, the Creator's latest album entitled Flower Boy. Now, Tyler, the Creator has been moving up in the music scene recently, and you may not know where he's coming from. He is a West Coast Cali rapper. He was born in 1991. He produces, he directs, he's directed Doritos commercials. He's got that new TV show on Vice where he's going out learning how they make crayons and whatnot. But he's originally part of the rap collective Odd Future, which was established in 2006 with a bunch of his friends. And in 2006, Tyler was only 16. So he has been working on his dream. He has been working and creating music for a long time. But you probably never heard of Odd Future because, at least in my opinion, they, especially the early stuff, it's a bunch of 16-year-olds. So their music isn't necessarily amazing. There's definitely that raw talent of a bunch of people. But, you're just a bunch of high schoolers. And so what are you going to be talking about? You're going to talk about girls. You're going to be using homophobic slurs. You're going to be talking about dicks. So. And they've always kind of fueled themselves on controversy. They've always been like, oh, we're crazy. And they do crazy interviews. And I'm not saying they're incapable of creating interesting music. In fact, the first time I heard of them was on the song Rolla, and it's from 2012. That was on the Odd Future tape volume 2. Tyler, the Creator, definitely stood out in terms of like his verse that he put out. But that music video is so interesting in that beat they make is so just driving. And the visuals that they always add to these really interesting tracks. For example, when it's Tyler's turn, he's a centaur on top of a hillside, and the rest of the members of Odd Future calling up to him as he's rapping. It's just who else thinks of like, oh, you know what, we'll make a music video and I want to be a centaur in the middle of it. It just kind of shows you the creativity, if that's what you want to call it, of the members of Odd Future, that they're willing to put themselves in the mindset that they can do anything, which then allows you to be really creative. And for me, Tyler always stuck out from Odd Future because he was the one who seemed like he had more promise. And I'm pointing to because his timbre of his voice is like really, he's got a real low voice, but his delivery's always been aggressive. From the beginning, he's always been that you've got somebody singing maybe and someone's delivering a really soft verse, and then Tyler will come in, and that contrast between the soft and the aggressive, that's what I always thought, wow, that guy, Tyler, he's got something that's gonna stick out, something that's profitable. He started doing his solo work, Tyler, the Creator, in 2011. And so he's 21 by this time. And he's been touring with Odd Future. He's been practicing and honing his skills. But I think in order for us to understand where I think Flower Boy fits in for Tyler's musical growth and his musical career, you got to look at his third solo album, which was entitled Cherry Bomb. And this was in 2015. I think like an overall encompassing point for this album, Cherry Bomb, is that this was proof of concept, meaning he can create, he can produce, he can create interesting music, but he's lacking the experience to kind of create a really polished off piece of work. Because he's been doing this since he was 16. He's got the knowledge, and he definitely has the talent, and he has a drive to do it, but he's never had himself in the position where he can be working with somebody who's like, oh, I know exactly how to put you over the edge. He didn't have that on Cherry Bomb, is what I'm saying. If you listen to the first track on his third album, Death Camp, something that's common throughout Tyler, the Creator's music, is the heavy influence of Pharrell or NERD. NERD was the band that Pharrell was part of before he went and did his solo career. So that beat on Death Camp, you can hear that, like, that's an NERD beat. But with the addition of Tyler, the Creator's voice, and then how heavy the beat is, how compressed and how distorted every instrumental is, you get this really aggressive track. But for some reason, in the mixing, Tyler's sitting behind the instrumental. So you listen to a lot of music. You would think as the vocalist, as the MC, you would want to be front and center. But he's got himself hiding behind all this noise. Going to the next track, it's entitled Buffalo. Same thing, great example of how Tyler can deliver really aggressive lyrics, and you match that with this heavy bass, lots of compression, and he finds ways to even add on noise to the piano pad that's coming up behind it. But same issues I'm having is that the vocal line is still sitting behind the instrumental, and he's compressing the vocals too. So I'm not against compression, I'm not against distortion. I'm against it when you can hear it, that there's too much compression going on, that the whole music just starts sounding flat. You've cut off so much of the high and the low that it becomes this stagnant, thin piece. Same thing. So you on the third track called Pilot, same thing, real distorted, but this time it's like it's overgained distorted bass line. And I love heavy bass. I'm a bass player myself. I love aggressive, interesting instrumentals. But then you're going to put your voice behind that, and then you're going to compress everything where just everything gets flat. Like, there was a better way to mix this to make it sound more aggressive, to make it sound more in your face, to give it a bigger punch. Rather than having it sit back, you want it to sit forward. If you're thinking if you're going to be writing aggressive lyrics and aggressive music, you want that energy coming out of the speaker. You don't want that energy being sat back. It's like playing behind the beat versus in front of it. And what's crazy is that a lot of Tyler's music, he'll do a really heavy section and then he'll contrast it with a soulful, jazzy chord section, and it kind of goes back and forth between those. But he even compresses the soul section. So then it kills any vibe, any kind of emotion you can get from that. The cleanest sounding track on Cherry Bomb is entitled Smuckers. And I'll tell you why I think it is the cleanest. Because he has Kanye West and Lil Wayne as features on it. Kanye's verse, he's doing that Kanye sing song thing he does where he's trying to sing but he's really not. Well, you can't have that compressed and have it sitting behind the beat. It's not going to be effective. And I'm sure when Kanye heard it, if he had been compressed, he would have said, nah, you're doing that wrong. Let me show you how to do it. Because Kanye's got at least somebody who knows how to do it. And so the last few tracks of the Cherry Bomb album, they feel a lot cleaner, a lot more. It's a wider space being created with the music. But it still just sounds overproduced, and it still sounds like it's being limited by a lot of mixing techniques that don't need to happen. I don't understand why, if Tyler, the Creator, has had so much experience since 2006, and in 2015 you're going to release your third studio album. Oh, and by the way, he was the one producing all this. He was the one writing all the music, Tyler, the Creator. Why would you then sit your vocals behind the instrumental? I probably would point to the fact, if this whole album is going for this like really heavy, dirty noise sound, adding the compression, I think he's playing off of the noise hop movement of that kind of genre of where, because Kanye did it too on the Yeezus album, where they're trying to see if they can get away with it. Definitely, Tyler's voice would match very well with that because of how low it is and how effectively he can deliver aggressive vocals. But there's a way to do it and maintain the aggression that you're trying to put forward in the track. There's a way to do it where it doesn't come across as if you're trying to do something you heard before. And that's how I kind of think that Cherry Bomb is. And Tyler's never been the greatest lyricist, just like Kanye, just like Lil Wayne. They're not writing about amazing things. They're not making any social commentary. I think the one thing on Cherry Bomb, around this time, 2015, Tyler is finding himself kind of starting to pick up, and he's kind of making a lot of like, I don't care what you think of me, I'm gonna do what I want, I don't want the fame. But I've heard that before. That's not a new concept for artists. Hell, that's what Miley Cyrus did in Bangers. She's like, I'm sick of being Disney. I want to do crazy. I want to go nuts. And you listen to her now, and she's actually kind of calmed it down. She's singing really poppy, pretty songs. They sound just like the Hannah Montana days. She can sing. If she would just focus on that, then maybe she'd be just like Lady Gaga. Same thing. Somebody made her just go crazy, do the Madonna technique of just flooding the market of like, isn't she crazy? Well, she's wearing a meat dress. What? And then that directs you to the music. Well, they don't need you to do that. So Cherry Bomb, I'm saying, is along the same lines where they're trying to put him into something that, or at least he thought he could be put into something, into that genre of noise hop, but it just wasn't. For me, it wasn't an effective album. He's hiding. A lot of these beats are incredible. Same thing. Tyler's talented. He can do very interesting music. He can create sounds and soundscapes that are like, wow, there's something there. But then why are you hiding your talent behind all of these mixing techniques? Why are you compressing everything? You've designed a heavy bass line, and then you're gonna dumb it down by cutting out the lows. If you want it noisy, you got to leave a little treble in there because that's where the noise is coming from. So Flower Boy, which was released this year, he once again produces all the tracks and has a much more professional sound. When I say professional, I'm referring to the way he designs soundscapes. It's not just a beat and then you contrast that with a little bit of soul. Go back to the beat, soul, end story. He actually does intros to songs, does fade outs, finds interesting ways to add in the next part of the beat. Like, you start on maybe a pad, add in a little hi-hat on it, then you put in the kick drum, then, those kind of things where you can turn a 2 minute and a half song into 5 if you know how to take the listener on a journey throughout that time. And actually, why would you not develop the musical idea from a 2.5 minute song to 5-6 minutes? The way he's mixing the vocals and instrumentals, I think, is 10 times better. He's sitting in front of the instrumentals on Flower Boy. He's not behind it. He's also in the beats he's creating that on Cherry Bomb, everything was so convoluted and stuck together, and then you put that compression on and you're just squeezing so much into such a small space. Somebody taught him, hey, you need blank space. Just like in art, blank space is where in music, the blank space is where you can get that beat to ride out. If you're trying to let somebody focus on your lyrics, don't make it busy. You can have a really effective, aggressive beat and it be very little movement which then allows you a lot of space to fill and show off if you can do crossbar writing schemes or if you can do triplicated beat schemes. I mean, the choices are endless if you give yourself the space to do it. Don't limit yourself. Maybe this is unfair to say, but in terms of, it sounds like a much more professional sound, the Flower Boy album. It sounds more professional because it's easier to listen to. That's a term you use in an opinion. Oh, this is easy to listen to. I'm saying that because I'm curious how the hardcore fan of Tyler, the Creator, somebody's been listening to him since 2006 in Odd Future, with this, sophomoric sound, with the lyrics that don't mean anything of substance. And then you get to this new album, there's a lot more jazzy chords, there's a lot more sevens and nines, and the space is being created is a lot bigger, and there's a lot more musicality to it. Even the lyrics have now started to grow up. He's talking about racism, poverty, his goals he's working on. Apparently he was talking about his sexuality. I didn't see it in there. He made some references. I think people are reading too much into that. I think when you allow yourself the freedom to write challenging lyrics, maybe sexuality will come up in conversation. Does that mean you attribute it to the artist himself? I would disagree with that. He uses ambient noise, meaning he'll find ways to make everyday sounds be part of the beat. He kind of was doing that in Cherry Bomb. He's kind of done that before. But in this one, because of the space being left, the blank space in the beat, when you put that in there, you just put a little sprinkle on top. You're like, oh my God. Somebody is really thinking about what and when you put things into the track. What will sound the best in this instance? Example, he uses static from a guitar amp sit in the back. Some people will cut that out. I really love it when artists are, somebody would usually point to hearing static in a guitar amp, like, oh, we got to redo the guitar track because you can hear the static, but you leave it in there. Why? Because it sounds great. Why? Because it makes it sound live. It makes it sound organic. It doesn't cut it down to just some kind of computer. And that's something that I think a lot of music today has an issue with, is that they're trying to make it too clean, and you end up with Britney Spears, where everything was just so dang clean, so GD clean, that you lose a lot of the emotion in it. They try to make her vocals perfect with all the pitch correction. Well, then she sounds like a computer. If you've listened to Chance the Rapper, I think that's a good comparison to the soundscape of Flower Boy, because a lot of people are doing that nowadays. I mean, we talked about Life of Pablo, now we're talking about Flower Boy. I've been listening to Chance the Rapper a lot. That whole, pointing back to him, Butterfly, I feel like Dr. Dre has really influenced from behind the music scene the resurgence of musicality and jazz in the hip-hop world. Somebody's making these guys listen to some great music that they may not have had access to. Like, there's a lot of samples from songs in the 80s on this one. Like, there's a Roy Ayers, Ooh, that's the title of the song, from 1982. And this is one example that I want to point out. Somebody's hanging out with Pharrell, and Pharrell's listening to some great music, and I feel like what they're doing is they're saying, hey, you want to work with me? Yeah, come over and listen to some music. And then they bring over their iPod, and they're listening to stuff from the late 70s and early 80s, when, there were musicians, when you had funk artists, when you had musicians who actually knew how to play, and you could still create these really interesting, complex musical soundscapes. The idea of the soundscape, I think, is best pointed to with Forward, the first track on Flower Boy, because there's this driving beat in the beginning, and that's actually a sample from the band Can. from the song Spoon, and it's 1997, but it's the Sonic Youth mix. And he finds a way to kind of start that out, and then you add in this jazz guitar, and then you add in the drums, and then you do the vocals from Tyler, which is this heavy, low, aggressive, but he's gotten better now, you don't have to yell anymore. It's all about mic presence at this point to put the aggression into the track. And the vocals are sitting forward, not back. But this whole album is, Cherry Bomb was aggressive and dirty and compressed. This one sounds much more Cali, much more West Coast, a lot more chill. Second track, Where This Flower Blooms. Starts out with piano and strings. That wasn't in Cherry Bomb. That wouldn't have fit. You can't distort. I mean, you can, but that wouldn't have fit in that project. In this project, in Flower Boy, that makes sense if we're going to be doing a West Coast chill vibe. He's got a lot more interesting flow. The rhythms of his vocals are much more interesting, and they're also much more laid back. But he still finds a way to be aggressive about it. Pharrell, like I said, has been a constant presence in Tyler the Creator's music. The third track, sometimes 100%, this is a Pharrell beat. That's where he's pulling from. There's lots of singing in this album. A lot of, he'll do a verse and he'll have somebody kind of sing a hook, and then he'll do a verse. And rather than pairing it with a snare drum, he pairs it with a clap track. I thought that was an interesting choice. I wouldn't have thought to do that. The fifth track is entitled Who Dat Boy, and that's definitely pulling from the noise hop influence of Cherry Bomb. But someone taught him how to orchestrate noise hop. Someone taught him, like, okay, we can create really dirty, busy tracks, but we got to leave a little bit of space for you to fit into it. The seventh track, Garden Shed, another example of a very well produced piece of art, because he's doing the build-up of a soundscape, the mixing of the vocals versus the instrumental, perfect. A lot of space left for the beat to ride out, which allows the vocal to sit on top. And this has if you listen to Pink Floyd, every time Pink Floyd does a slow song, they do this kind of build-up. That's what I'm hearing when I'm listening to Garden Shed. Is I'm hearing this Pink Floyd influence with like jazz pianos. An example of Tyler's growth in his flow is on the 11th track entitled Dropping Seeds, because he's able to do rhythm changes on the verses. He's doing crossbar rhythm schemes. He's somebody, or him, I keep trying to attribute to somebody who was influencing him. Maybe I don't want to belittle maybe his effort to improve himself, but I'm hearing the improvement, and that's the major thing I'm trying to say. I could hear the work he's put in. And if you had to listen to one track on this album, listen to it's called November. That one's on repeat. Everything we've been discussing, soundscape, moving from one point to the other, the mixing of vocals versus the instrumentals, the space left for the beat to ride out. He's got singing versus his aggressive lyric delivery. He's got the aggressive beat versus the soul section in the beat, and going back, a lot of contrast. There's a lot of movement in the musical space. Flower Boy is definitely his best work to date, the best project. He's got a lot. You can hear all the lessons he's taken throughout the years. And I probably would say that because he's not working with higher top tier people, at least for the last 2 years, he's taking from all of that experience. You have to. You can't walk in a room with Kanye West and not learn a thing or two. I mean, hell, if I had Kanye's number, I'd be calling him up all the time. Like, hey, can you listen to this? Hey, can you tell me what I can do better? Hey, what am I missing on there? Can you mind stop by and tell me, how we make this, how we can fix it? Hey, can you call up somebody who knows what the problem is on this one and show me how to do it myself? Flower Boy is an example of an artist who is almost there. Like, wow, you're good. And I'm excited to see what the next one is, because there's that little piece that's missing. You can't really put your finger on it, but you know that, oh, he'll be back. He'll be working on it. So after you listen to that, you should probably listen to this week's Dollar Throwback. The Dollar Throwback. And we're going to talk about Robbie Dupree. I found this album. A lot of times I don't recognize the names. I'll just go in there and I'll be digging through. And I see this black and white photo. See if I can describe it to you. The album I'm talking about is called Street Corner Heroes. And it's definitely an 80s guy. He's got the early 80s beard and like a, feathered haircut. But he's wearing a white tee, a V-neck, and it's tucked in to some jeans without a belt. And he's kind of doing that arms crossed in an alleyway, mysterious look. And I started laughing because no, you can't wear a white V-neck and tuck it into your jeans without a belt anymore. And I was just like, this guy is dated. His fashion sense, at least. I was like, I got $1. I got to pick this up. But then you turn it on the back, as you're supposed to do. See who was the company who produced it. It's Elektra. Asylum Records. Elektra always has amazing. Decca, Elektra. These are names you gotta look for when you dig into the dollar section. And he's on the back of the album. He's still the camera's further back, and this time he's got his arms like his thumbs tucked in the front of his no belt jeans to this V-neck t-shirt, white tee. It's an undershirt. It's a white V-neck undershirt tucked into jeans. And he's wearing some like leather boot moccasin things. I can't walk around town looking like that. But you could in 80. You could in 81. But what always happens is that I'll pick these up and you play it and you're like, this is I didn't know his name. I hear this on the radio all the time. Steal Away. That's the name of the song that I know you've heard on the radio. But that's from his first album in 1980. That was like it was number 6 on the Billboard 100. And all of his music is like that piano smooth, got smooth vocals, real slow drums. It's that clean 80s love song, But on the one I got in my hand right now, Street Corner Heroes, there are 3 songs that are incredible. Brooklyn Girls, Saturday Night, and Are You Ready for Love? And they're just these classic 1980s love songs. That's all you can, like, after this album, after Street Corner Heroes, he kind of died back. He's still doing music. But he does that 1980s little. That's the only way you can describe it. I just go check it out. At least find the album cover. But I just keep pointing to pick up. If it's $1, pick it up. And you're like, what? I know this guy was incredible. Like, I love late 70s, early 80s music in any genre. And now I've got this guy in my collection who was, he was on the top 10 Billboard 100 during the 80s. I got it for $1. And it works perfect. So that's it for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like and subscribe our YouTube page, as one would do to show appreciation. We still got that Facebook page, Rexec 808 Productions. Be sure to follow that. And we got our Twitter set up, Rexec 808. Yeah, send us some requests. Tell us how we're doing. Let us know what you want us to listen to, what we should review. Until next time.